It's 62. I sat in my car at a McDonald's parking lot, counting $6.42. 3 months ago, I had an office on the 14th floor. 37 years building Turner Construction, gone in weeks. A $2 million judgment I couldn't pay. I lost the business, then the house. That's how I ended up at my son David's door on a Tuesday, holding a single suitcase. "Dad," he looked surprised. "I thought you were coming this weekend." Plans changed. His wife Jennifer appeared behind him. The look she gave me wasn't just dislike, it was disgust. "Robert," she said, "David told me about your situation." "I was hoping to stay a few days." "We have the Hendersons coming," Jennifer said. "The guest room is small." I looked at David. We both knew the Hendersons lived 20 minutes away. "Maybe there's a motel," he said, not meeting my eyes. Something broke inside me. This was my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the man I'd put through college. "I understand," I said. The motels were full. By 8 p.m., I was parked behind a diner, trying to sleep in my car. Then my phone rang. "Robert Turner," a formal voice. "My name is Charles Wainwright. My employer, Alexander Pierce, wishes to meet you tomorrow. $500 for 1 hour." The Pierce estate was magnificent. I parked my Honda between a Mercedes and a BMW. Alexander Pierce sat in a wheelchair behind a mahogany desk, thin and pale, but his eyes were sharp. "Do you remember a rainy night 8 years ago, Route 12? He said. My blood went cold. I was in the other car, the BMW that went through the guardrail. You swerved right instead of staying in your lane. You climbed down a muddy embankment, broke my window with a rock, and pulled me out." He paused. "You saved my life." Anyone would have done the same. "The police report said 3 cars passed before you arrived." He opened a folder. "I was running that night. My company was about to be investigated for fraud. The accident changed everything. I built this empire, $800 million, because of you." Alexander leaned forward. "I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. 2 months. Before I go, I need to settle my debts." He pushed a document toward me. "This is my will. You are the sole beneficiary." "That's impossible. You have family." "I have a son who hasn't spoken to me in 5 years, a daughter who calls twice a year for money. Neither was in that creek." He pulled out photographs. "I've been watching you. I know about your business, your house, your son. I also know what they said to you." He played a recording, Jennifer's voice. "We barely have the emotional bandwidth for our own problems." David's voice. "Maybe there's a motel." "Your son owes $47,000. Their mortgage is 3 months behind. They're facing foreclosure." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because when I die, they'll come with tears and apologies. You need to know who they really are." Alexander died 5 days later. At the will reading, his son Marcus and daughter Victoria sat across from me, ignoring my presence. The lawyer opened the folder. "To Marcus, who has spent years waiting for me to die, I leave $100,000. To Victoria, who has called 16 times in 5 years, I leave $100,000. He turned to me. "The remainder, $786 million, is left to Robert Turner." Marcus shot up. "This is insane. Your father was of sound mind." Victoria rounded on me. "What did you do to manipulate him?" "I pulled your father out of a creek," I said quietly. The lawyer handed us envelopes. Mine contained a letter. "Robert, you earned this 8 years ago. You've proven you deserve it every day since by living with integrity, something my children never learned." Marcus opened his envelope. His face went white. Your gambling debts total $623,000. You forged my signature 3 times. Victoria's hands shook as she read her own. You've spent over $400,000 on clothes while claiming to be a struggling artist. They left without saying goodbye. That night, I listened to another recording Alexander had given me, a conversation between David and Jennifer from 3 days earlier. "If he really inherits all that money," Jennifer said, "we need a story. Tough love. He'll want to believe it." I turned off the recording. The next evening, I arrived at David's house. Jennifer embraced me like an old friend. The table was set with their good china. "So, $786 million? What will you do with it?" David said carefully. "We need to apologize," Jennifer added. "We were stressed. Tough love." I set down my coffee cup. "I have something for you." I handed each an envelope with a $25,000 check. "A gift from someone who understands struggling." I pulled out a folder. "Your $47,000 in credit card debt. 3 months behind your mortgage. I also know about your conversation 3 days ago, planning how to handle my reconciliation." The color drained from their faces. "The checks are yours to keep," I said, standing. "Consider them payment for a lesson. Your father isn't stupid." "Dad, wait, we're family." "Family forgives," I said, "but forgiveness doesn't mean I have to keep putting myself in a position to be hurt." "Where will you go?" David asked, his voice cracking. "Somewhere I don't have to pretend. Somewhere people see me as a person, not a wallet." I walked out the door. Behind me, I heard Jennifer crying. Whether from shame or loss of money, I couldn't tell. At that moment, it didn't matter. 6 months later, I sat on my new porch watching the sunset over the lake. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine, paid for with cash. No one could take it away. I'd kept Alexander's businesses running, hiring good people to manage what I didn't understand. I wasn't a builder anymore, but I'd learned that building wealth and rebuilding a life weren't so different. Both required a solid foundation. Both required knowing which materials were sound and which would crumble under pressure. I'd started volunteering at a shelter for homeless veterans, men who reminded me of myself not so long ago. Men who'd lost everything through circumstances beyond their control. Men who just needed someone to see them as human beings, deserving of dignity. One of them, a former Army mechanic named Frank, had become a close friend. We fished together on weekends. He didn't know about the $786 million. He just knew I'd once slept in my car, too. That was enough. David had called twice. The first time, he left a voicemail saying Jennifer wanted to apologize in person. The second time, he said they'd sold their house and moved into a smaller place. He sounded different, less polished, more real. I hadn't returned the calls, not out of anger. Anger required emotional investment, and I'd stopped investing in people who saw me as a means to an end. But I hadn't blocked him either. Maybe someday he'd understand. Maybe not. The evening air was soft and warm. Somewhere across the lake, a family was having a barbecue, their laughter carrying across the water. The sound of people who actually enjoyed each other's company. The sound of real family, the kind you create rather than the kind you're born into. I thought about Alexander Pierce, the man I'd pulled out of a creek 8 years ago. He'd been running away from his life that night. In a way, so had I. Running from a son who couldn't stand up to his wife, from a business that had crumbled, from a future I couldn't afford. But we'd both stopped running. Alexander had faced his death with grace. I'd faced my life with honesty. I raised my glass to Margaret's photograph on the table beside me. She'd been gone 12 years, but I still talked to her sometimes. "We did okay, Maggie. We raised a son who became exactly what his wife wanted him to be. That's not our fault, and it's not our responsibility to fix." The crickets sang their evening song.
The last light faded behind the mountains. Somewhere in the darkness, a new day was waiting. I wasn't afraid of it anymore.